It's the night before Thanksgiving, and this is definitely the weirdest Thanksgiving in American history, bar none. And I haven't even been alive for most of American history. Where you live and your politics actually have a lot to do with how you will celebrate this Thanksgiving. That in and of itself is weird. And something the Pope said that, I disagree with a lot of things the Pope says sometimes, but this one I really disagree with. Thanksgiving is a huge day for Americans, and it's a day of thanks. It's also a very personal day for me. I will tell you why. It's Rob Nelson Live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday night Rob Nelson Live show. Coming at you still here in Florida, gearing up for a youth town hall. Just put a heads out there. By the way, thanks everybody who's watching, especially our viewers on YouTube and Facebook and Reddit. Love you guys on Reddit have been awesome. Facebook, you guys got to compete with Reddit to get, Reddit, you guys, your comments have been amazing. I love the interactivity and the dialogue. And I want a heads up that we are doing in January 14th, I'm doing a live town hall. It's a youth town hall. We're hosting it in Jacksonville. Students from across the city, from high schools across the city, leadership, young leaders, about 100, 150 gathered together. And then we are streaming it everywhere. And we have sort of satellites in like 10, 15, 20 other cities and states around the country who will be merging in. And it's only young people. It's like the adults in the room can't talk. They're there to observe, but we're going to have people from, say, the mayor's office and the school board and the sheriff's office, they're participating to listen because these kids want to make change. And I'll tell you, if these guys will inspire you. It's still a little ways off, but just giving you a heads up. Okay. So today, day before Thanksgiving, so much going on. So, and by the way, if you are streaming in comments, if you're watching the stream and bringing in comments, if we get enough comments, I'll cut the monologue, my rant monologue. I love ranting with you guys, but we'll cut it and just do questions. So if you have questions or comments or things you want to say, and you're saying them, Bruce maybe Crafty, our producer, maybe putting them up on the screen, don't worry. I'll get to them. If there's enough of them, we'll just wait. And then we'll just do all comments and questions and interactive feedback for the last part of the show, which I love doing. That's what we did the last two rant monologue shows. So Thanksgiving. I'm telling you, and I'll get to the Pope in a second, but Thanksgiving is a peculiar holiday. It's a very American holiday, right? Other countries, people are like, we don't have Thanksgiving. And some people diss it, like, oh, it was, it's about genocide. And when, it's about, taking over from the indigenous people. As a side note, an FYI, there's not a country out there. There probably is one, like Iceland. I'm not even sure about that hasn't made its way by, unfortunately, conquering other people on the way. That's a sad truth of human history. You cannot like it. You can diss on America for what we did. And I'm not defending it. I've said many times, we came in and we took an entire country from the indigenous peoples who lived here. And we did it in a pretty brutal way. And we had wars over it. And yeah, we've, created reservations and let them have their own territories. But, we did some damage that probably, would take more than the time we've had to undo. But that is how history and nations advanced and conquered everywhere. It doesn't matter, not just in Europe, not just here. It's how, it happened in Africa. It's happened tribally going way back. Most of human advancement, unfortunately, came on the backs of other people who were indigenous peoples. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong, just kind of makes it a hard truth about human reality. And hopefully you get to a point where we are now, where you recognize that, every single one of us, left, right, or center, as woke as you are, or as far right as you would be, you would be stuck in a position right now of kind of having to say everything you have, you should have to give back. So if you are like, no, we screwed the Native American people, we shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving. We should, we have to undo what we did. The only way you could undo it is literally to give it all up. I mean, give it all up. Give the land back up, give your houses back up, give your jobs back up, give your education back. It ain't going to happen. And you wouldn't give it up. No matter how woke you are, you wouldn't give it up. You can't. You can't undo what we did to get here. We can act pretty differently going forward. And I think we have. We've civilized and grown and matured in so many ways as a nation. And I think sometimes we forget that. I was in an Uber today with a driver who is from Afghanistan. And he's been in the States, U.S. for like 5 years. He's a citizen here now. But he grew up in Afghanistan. And, Afghanistan's been at war. Well, we've been in a war in Afghanistan for like almost 20 years. Before that, the Russians were there occupying in a war. And before that, they literally, since there was like a period up to like 1970, like 45 to 70, where it was like not. But basically for the last 50 years, Afghanistan's been at war. And I was asking this guy about it. And he was saying how, like, growing up, it was not uncommon to walk outside and see dead, bodies laying around, dead people just laying around who'd been shot. Things had been blowing up. He's like, every single day, your whole life. He's like, your whole life is, he's like, people have stopped wanting anything more. They're just want to sort of survive, get through. They've kind of given up. He's like, it's horrible. He's still got family there. He's got family here, family there. And I was like, wow. Like growing up an entire life in a country that is ravaged by internal civil war, where you have, right now you have a insurgency within the country going against the government, and then you have external powers, surround us. You've got Iran, Russia, China, and then the U.S. popping in too. Trump wanted to get us out of that war. Obama wanted to get us out of there. We seem to just stay and nothing changes, but not the point. Fact is, this guy is what he grew up with. And I was like, wow, imagine being here. And I asked him about it. He's like, yeah. He's like, he watches all the protests, and he's kind of like, you guys have it so good. Because, you go out and protest here and you might get sprayed with like some rubber bullets and some pepper gas, some tear gas. But at the end of the day, and some people may go to jail, but at the end of the day, you're not walking around America every day wondering, if you're going to get shot at by militants driving by. Some neighborhoods you worry about a drive-by shooting, and that's bad. But most Americans aren't walking around literally with things wondering if the restaurant you're in is going to blow up. That's his whole life. And he was like, I'm so grateful in America. And I was like, right. We take our freedoms for granted. We have the freedom. Because we got here to this point, however we got here, we have incredible freedoms in this country. We have incredible freedoms to express ourselves. We have incredible freedoms to express ourselves, our political views. It's being censored lately, but we still have freedoms. Freedoms to express ourselves politically, freedoms to express ourselves creatively, religiously, sexually, and economically. I mean, it's an incredible amount of freedom in this country. It's why I fight so hard against the censorship. It's why it scares me so much that we are censoring that freedom, that we are clamping down on it. Because that freedom, it came at great expense. We didn't just get it. We fought for it over and over again. Men and women went to die for this country to keep those freedoms that you have. The freedom to be woke, the freedom to be anti-government, the freedom to hate on the president, or the freedom to hate on the woke people, or the freedom to hate on the conservatives on the right. That freedom to literally go out in the streets in mass numbers and protest. And yes, people go, yeah, but look, they lined up people, like I said, with tear gas. That's nothing. That's any government trying to maintain some semblance of order. They weren't opening fire like the Chinese did Tiananmen Square. They weren't just gunning down people in the streets. They weren't just locking up anybody who opposed the government. You can hate on Donald Trump. It's not like, oh, we're going to collect all the anti-Trumpers and throw them in prison. Huh. We have incredible freedom. And do we value that freedom? And this is where it comes to Thanksgiving. And I'll get to the Pope. Thanksgiving is not a holiday about freedom, but Thanksgiving is a holiday about being thankful. And one of the things we can be thankful for is all the stuff we have, including freedom, because that may be bigger than anything. And this is a tough Thanksgiving for a lot of people because a lot of people have lost a lot. But our freedom is the last thing, the thing you want to hold on to the longest. You know, Patrick Henry, that famous line from back in the day of the Revolution, give me liberty or give me death. Live free or die, the New Hampshire motto. I mean, the people were willing to die rather than not be free. And that is why I think you see such a backlash against some of what's happening around Thanksgiving in various states and the closures. Last couple episodes, we got into the hypocrisy of leaders who say one thing and do another. And that hypocrisy keeps happening. Last week, it came out that, all the bigwig Democrats in Brooklyn had gotten together for a big party. And they said there were only 10 of them, or 11, because that's all you're allowed. And then pictures came out. The room was packed with people, nobody wearing masks. Once again, do what I say, not what I do. But it's bigger than that. The decision in California just did it, in Oregon and various states, literally telling people to, in some cases, do not have anyone over for Thanksgiving. Do not travel anywhere for Thanksgiving. Do not go out unless you have to, unless your life depends on it. It's some emergency. And of course, you can go to the grocery store and you can go get weed and liquor. But I mean, those are life essential elements. Gotta have your weed, gotta have your Jack Daniels. But the idea of telling people you will not celebrate Thanksgiving with anyone but the people who live in your immediate household. And then the excessiveness of and you should wear masks when you're inside and you should, only pull them down to eat food and, socially distance and don't share plates and all that other BS. And it is, at that point, you're getting crazy. That backlash did not just happen from people on the right. And a whole lot of people on the left are going to violate those rules. Because a whole lot of people go, no, I'm going to have my Thanksgiving. I'm going to do this thing with my family or my friends. Have you ever been alone on Thanksgiving? You know how lonely that can be when you're all by yourself? I'm going out tomorrow in Jacksonville, and I'm with a guy I know who has a restaurant, and they provide food for the homeless on Thanksgiving. Really cool operation he sets up. And I'm going to be there, help set up, help feed people. He makes it like they have a home there, like the tables with pumpkins, the whole deal. This year is not going to just be homeless people. It's going to be people who just sort of lost a lot this year and went down and are kind of wavering. But you ever talk to people who are left alone on Thanksgiving? You almost feel like you want to kill yourself because you feel so alone, because it's the holiday you're not supposed to be alone on, Thanksgiving and Christmas. You're not supposed to be alone. If you're alone, what the heck is wrong with you? It's a big deal to take that freedom away from people. And people go, no, it's not. The state can tell you what to do for your own well-being. Yes and no. That is one of the things about America. One of the things that make America America is that we've always said we get to decide what makes us safest and not safest. We get to decide what we want in our own lives. We get to make choices. Now, people go, yeah, as long as those choices don't hurt other people. So, right? That's the caveat, right? Can't do anything you want, but you can do a lot. So people go, well, the reason you can't go out, in Thanksgiving is because you hurt other people. We got to kind of get past that argument a little bit. I think everybody, that argument was 6 months ago, pandemic. You stay in 9 months ago, you stay in to not get other people sick. That you're going to be fine, but don't get the old people sick. Don't get grandma sick. In California, they're like, you go out, you're going to make grandma sick. Think about it. You want to kill grandma? You don't. They really played with people's heads. And at a certain point, people are like, okay, I'm not around grandma, or grandma's fine, or grandma wants me to, whatever. I'm just saying, yes, they want to stop the spread of COVID. I understand that. I understand the fear and the anxiety that comes with that. But literally clamping everybody's holiday Thanksgiving thing down as if that's where COVID is going to spread from. They did it on Memorial. They do it every holiday. And yet it keeps spreading not on the holidays. And by the way, I've said from the beginning, I think what happened with the protest was the mass spreader event, certainly in Southern California. They don't want to admit it. That was the mega mass spreader event that started it all. Once you let all that out, you couldn't get the chickens back in the coop. That's random phrase, but I used to raise chickens as a kid, so on a farm. But I mean, again, you know, people's thousands and thousands of people from different households out, many not wearing masks, many wearing bandanas that don't work at all, many screaming, all screaming and yelling, all packed in. I was there, mashed, mush mashed. We were squished like sardines. I think that was the spreader event, and you couldn't get it back in after that. But then they just keep looking at the next holiday. First it was Memorial Day, then it was the 4th of July. Now it's Thanksgiving. It's like, at what point do you go, you know what, the holidays aren't really where we're getting the massive spreads from? But aside from all that, telling people you cannot have your, you know, your closest friends or your family over for Thanksgiving, for a lot of people is like just going a step too far. It's like, don't tell, you do not get to control every decision I make in my life. Here's the personal story and why Thanksgiving. I'm getting to the Pope. Don't worry. I haven't forgotten about the Pope or any of you making comments. I haven't forgotten about that either. We're going to get to your comments. We're going to do comment. We're going to do all comments in like 10 minutes. On Thanksgiving, many years ago in my 20s, I was home on Thanksgiving, and it was the day after Thanksgiving, and I was watching a movie with my dad. It was Harrison Ford and Witness. And we watched the end of the movie. And the movie ends. There's old days, you still have VCRs. It's a powerful, emotional ending. And it's my dad, and he's like, rewind it. So I get up and I go and rewind on the VCR. So I actually went up manually, rewind it. So I'm up by the TV, rewind the VCR to replay the end and press play and watch the end again, the last 2 minutes. It's so emotional. And I turn around, and my father is lying on the couch, eyes rolled up in his head, green bile coming out of his mouth. I didn't know at the time what it was. He just had a massive stroke. My family, as I said, practiced a very extreme form of a religion. The religion isn't extreme, but the way my family practiced it was extreme, in which they didn't go to doctors. I didn't go to doctors my whole life. I didn't have a single bit of medicine, or I didn't even have vitamins. I was like 21. Never taken an Advil. I just suffered through everything. And trust me, I step on a rusty nail, get a tetanus infection, your whole leg blows up. You know, well, another story, another day. I didn't know what was wrong with my dad. I just knew he was like green stuff coming out of his mouth, eyes rolled up in his head. And he could gurgling. I went to call an ambulance. My mother was there. I was there. My mother was distressed, obviously. I accidentally called 411 instead of 911. And I got an operator who said, this is information, hang up and dial 911. I don't know how I misdialed. I hung up, and I was torn because I knew my father and mother didn't want an ambulance to come. They wanted to pray, but I'm looking at my father like dying. I don't even know what it is. As I'm about to dial 911, my mother's asking me not to do it. She's saying, don't. I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. I don't care about the religion stuff. I'm getting an ambulance. I hear my dad squeak out of his voice in the other room. His brain's still working. Don't do it. It sounded like a ghost from another world. It was horrible. And I hung the phone up. And I sat with my father that entire night. My father didn't die that night, but he never recovered. The stroke just took him out. He couldn't speak. He was barely there. He died, you know, he lived for a little while, never recovered, and then died. Basically, I lost my dad that night. And I lost my dad because he made a choice. He made a choice to not do what everybody else said you should do. He made a choice to trust his faith rather than go to a hospital. And it killed him. For many years, I was really angry, really mad. But a part of me accepted that my father had a right to make that choice. It's not my choice to decide for him. It's a liberty choice he could make. You could go, no, he can't. Yes, he could. Same way my brother who committed suicide, you know, took his life by suicide. died by suicide. You got to remember to say it that way. You know, Chester Bennington, the lead singer of Linkin Park, who died by suicide, his ex-wife, well, she was his wife when he died. She's now remarried. And I had a conversation about this, and she was like, stop saying people committed suicide. You don't commit suicide. You die by suicide. You don't commit cancer. Suicide is something people do usually because something's really wrong inside their head, and it's disease. It's a mental disease. You pull the trigger. Trying to remember to say died by suicide. Anyway, my brother died by suicide. Same thing I would say. I wish he hadn't, but he had a right to do it. I would defend anyone's right to make the choices about their life that I don't get to tell you, and the government doesn't get to tell you. Now, you can argue, no, that's all stupid, but it's not. It is a fundamental, essential thing about freedom. The choices we make about our own lives. You know, you want to make the choices about your own body. I'm pro-choice for that very reason. I don't want people to have tons of abortions, but it's your body. You get to decide what to do with it. You want to have a sex change? You want to change your gender? Your choice, your body. You want to commit suicide, or you want euthanasia yourself because you're old or sick and don't want to deal with it anymore? Your choice. And if you want to have your family, extended family over for Thanksgiving, it's your choice. And people who want to stay out of it can stay locked down, and people who don't want to go out don't have to go out. We're not letting everybody out anyway in a lot of places. But if you're in California, you are supposed to stay in. If you're in Florida, you are out. People are out doing their thing. Won't go into the case count thing again, but I will say this. The number of hospitalizations in California as a person in Los Angeles County, which is a quarter of the population of California, is essentially 0.002% of the population. It's a tiny, tiny percent of the population that's in the hospital with COVID. It's like 1,500 people. Yeah, it's a lot of people. Not really, not for 10 million people. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying it's not like thousands and thousands and thousands of people are in a hospital, and you've got 10 million people in a city of 1,500 of 10 million people. Most people are going to be okay, but it's not about that. It's about your right, your choice, your right to make a choice. There is a ex-military guy, and his name is Johnny Joey. Do we have that graphic, Crafty? The Instagram graphic? Johnny Joey, there it is. Put it down for 1 sec, Crafty, and I'll set this up. Johnny Joey, 9 years ago, almost 10, lost both his legs in Afghanistan. And that was not an easy thing to do, to lose your legs. And I've known others. I don't know him. I've known other former service guys, Marines, for example, guy who lost both his hands. It's not easy to lose both of any of your limbs, much less one. Both. Johnny Joey made a Instagram post yesterday, or I think it was yesterday. And this is what it says. Okay, Crafty, you can pop it up there. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read off my phone. I didn't fight 2 wars and lose 2 legs to be told I can't spend time with my family. As a matter of fact, I did it so you, capitalized, could choose how you spend your Thanksgiving. Honor sacrifice and tell the commies to shove it. The end's going to send everybody on the left crazy. Okay. Leave out to tell the commies to shove it. And I use the whole thing because I don't like taking things out of context. But at the end of the day, I lost those legs. I served so that you could make your own choice about things like this. So you have the freedom to decide for yourself, for your family. It's a fundamental American thing. You want to change that? Let's have that combo. I don't want to change that. I don't want to decide I don't get to make most basic decisions about my life, my well-being, my health, my sexuality, what I do with my body, and what I do with my personal life and where I do it, and what I do on my holidays. I have to be safe, sure. But telling me I can't, and by the way, most law enforcement agencies in cities and states that are doing this won't enforce it. They won't. They have come out and said, not going to enforce this. Not going to make the community any more pissed at us because we're going out and being the Thanksgiving police. Ain't happening. You guys do what you want on Thanksgiving because you can issue citations. And I'll tell you, we're not issuing them. We're not issuing citations to people who have too many people over Thanksgiving. It is not happening. Not only don't we have the people to do it, but even if we did have people, we ain't doing it. Not what we are going to enforce. And we're not being law enforcement officers because Governor Cuomo tried that one out. We are not. We are simply not. We're not. You can have that law. We are not going to muddy the waters any further by trying to enforce that. What they're really saying is it's people will be so pissed at us, and we don't want to be the Thanksgiving police, because at the end of the day, we are stepping on something we don't want to be stepping on. People's freedom to do what they want. We'll enforce people like beating each other up, pulling guns. We're not enforcing who you have over for Thanksgiving. Not happening. So where is the Pope wrong? I said I'd get to the Pope. The Pope came out and said that he thought he wrote a book. The George Floyd demonstrations were really good and important and necessary, and sort of a fighting back against the oppression of another person. I 100% agree. The Pope also said that protests against the COVID lockdowns were not okay. He said they were not okay because he said the notion that you are fighting against measures, I'm reading off my notes here, that the government must impose for the good of the people, to suggest that that's a political assault on your personal freedom or autonomy is not true. And I'm sorry, the Pope is wrong. He's right about George Floyd, but he's wrong that to suggest the government must impose them. It implies the government is somehow above us. At least in the United States, we are the government. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Of the people, by the people, for the people. Not government to the people. Our government is us. So government must impose for our good. We are the government. We forget that we get to decide what we want. Our leaders work for us. We elect them. They aren't appointed by God. The Pope may be appointed by God in the Catholic Church's world. I'm not dissing Catholics, by the way, not at all. Crafty's a Catholic. He knows I'm not. I'm just saying it doesn't work that way. The Catholic Church is very hierarchical. It started with God, then Jesus, then the Pope, all the way down. We elect our leaders. They work for us, and they don't just have an automatic right to tell us what to do in the most. So it is an assault on personal freedom. It is an assault on your autonomy. It is. You do have a right to protest that. And then he went further and said nobody who would do that would actually be out there trying to help people in need or protesting, in a Black Lives Matter march. And that is where the Pope is absolutely wrong, because I am a perfect example of that. And I am not just one person. I know many people who do not want these lockdowns. And I know many people who do not want these lockdowns, who are people who are out there, who are people who are going to be out there tomorrow feeding homeless people and hungry people and people in need on Thanksgiving Day, who are out there supporting, helping people in need, who are taking time out of their lives, their money, their own personal life to help others, and who would be at BLM protests, because I was at BLM protests. So I'm sorry. In this case, the Pope is wrong, not infallible. Neither is our government. Our governments are not infallible. They are made up of us, and we have a right to question and challenge them. And when they go too far, and I think they know they're going too far right now, maybe they are well-intentioned and just don't know what else to do, but they're going too far, and people are pushing back. And except for the wokest of the woke, we are going to see increasing in California, you're going to see increasing number of people left of center going, enough. I've already seen it. Enough is enough. You've told me to stay down too long. I can't do it anymore. Los Angeles just put on a curfew and closed all non-essential businesses. Restaurants, no more outdoor dining. Indoor wasn't even allowed. Everything is shut down again. And people are like, I can't. Not only can't mentally, I can't financially. I can't not do it. My business can't make it. You gotta let us try and be as safe as we can. That's it. I got so much more to say. But Crafty, I'm guessing are you ready for comments, Crafty? You want me to keep ranting away?
Go ahead, keep ranting.
Oh, keep ranting. You have no comments? I see comments over there. Man, well, we're at 26 minutes.
Yeah, I've been flashing them up with Monkey.
You're what?
I've been flashing the comments up there with Monkey. You can adjust some of those. Yep.
All right. So we don't have a lot of people commenting. I'm not sure why. That always bums me out when more of you aren't commenting. So, if you want to get them in now, get them in now. We'll take a couple that we have. Fine. We won't do a big comment section. Let's get a couple of Monkey Arms, because Monkey Arms is like one of my loyal listeners. Well, actually, Monkey Arms, that's not true. In certain states, they are. In certain states, they have prohibited you having anyone but people in your immediate household over for Thanksgiving. So if you wanted to have your parents over, or if you wanted to have your kids over, if you have kids that don't live with you, or if you wanted to have your brother or sister over, in many states, you would not be allowed to. And they're encouraging people not to spend any time outside, with anyone other than the people immediately in their family. So it's actually not true. In certain states, you are allowed to do what you want. You're allowed to be out and interact how you want. But in some states, they have actually said, we are, essentially they've canceled Thanksgiving. They've encouraged people not to do anything. And they say they know it's hard. But again, it's not about hard, not hard. It's about at what point do we get to say we want our lives back and we want to decide what to do with them. And I'm in a place where they're doing that. And I said this before. I said this last week. I'm in a place where that's happening, and we are not dropping like flies. And it's not left and right. It's not like everyone on the left is doing it. It's not. The woke people here are interacting with everybody else, and people are managing to make it work. And the fact that we are not dropping like flies, the fact that our infection rates are not significantly different than another equally populous state like California, that in the cities here, they're not significantly different than the states, than the populated cities, say in California, suggests that something about staying in isn't really working to stop the spread. It's just not quite working. But again, this is bigger than that. This to me is about liberty. This is about freedom, the freedom to make really difficult choices about your life. And if you want to give those freedoms up, if you want to give them up, you can. I don't want to give them up. A whole lot of people in this country don't want to give them up. And you better be real careful about giving them up, because you won't get them back. Once you give things up, you don't get them back. You just don't. Got another comment for me, Crafty?
I was going to say, don't forget, over in Pennsylvania, they want you to wear face masks inside your house with your family now.
Right, exactly. Right. No, absolutely true. They want, exactly, Come on up, Crafty. Come on up. We'll wrap this up. We didn't get many interaction comments tonight. I don't know. It's the night before Thanksgiving. Where's my interactive fan base out there on Reddit? Are you watching silently? Come on, pump them in. I love Monkey Arms is in there.
Well, I was going to say, and I'll put this up with Monkey. Another thing he had mentioned earlier about was not getting censored. So let me give you an update. As we're going live, Reddit for the first time censored us. And I looked, and there was nothing that we violated in their terms and conditions. I was like, what the heck? So I had to start another stream in a different channel. So that was kind of.
So that's, we got censored? Man.
Yeah, I read it. And it actually says it violated community policy. I'm like, there was no policy. Like, they don't want you to spam, sell anything. And I was like, but nothing happened. They don't want you to incite hate speech. I was like, we didn't violate that. So,
well, we're gonna have to figure out why we got censored on Reddit, one of our favorite platforms. That's not good. So we're off Reddit.
No, I got us on again. And Monkey says maybe it's because they're censoring you. Wouldn't be the first time. We have had that happen.
Well, yeah, I think it is, Monkey Arms. I think it is why, I think that is why we're being censored. We didn't have more people, and we'll figure out why we got knocked off. That's not, that's not cool, Reddit, for knocking us off. And again, is it something I said? I don't know. Did we do something we don't know? Bruce will figure it out. Did we post something we weren't supposed to in a wrong way or whatever, But,
yeah, it happens.
It happens. Thanks, Monkey Arms, for saying I'm the best. I appreciate that. Jimmy Stock, at what point do the actions of the Democratic governors and mayors begin to piss off their base enough that they will lose the support of their base? I would say it'll take a long time for that to happen in mass. But the bases are pretty hard. I'd say the same thing on the other side. Some people said, when will Trump finally alienate his base? The bases today are dug in deep. But I would say they are losing a lot of support from people who are not their core base and people who are more moderate. And they are starting to, there's a shift happening already where Democratic governors and Democratic mayors are starting to lose people who don't feel as committed to them, whether it's because they're not hardcore in the base. They're losing in minority communities because those communities have been questioning, are you really doing much for us? You just use us as kind of vote props to get votes. And then, then you sort of forget about us. So I would say they're not going to lose their core base probably ever, but they're going to lose a whole lot of people who are just honestly going, this is BS now. I know I don't buy it. I don't buy it. It's just, I'm done with it. And I've heard it from people who are liberal and left and who support, Mayor Garcetti and Governor Newsom. And they're just like, I'm done. I am done with this. Like, you told me to stay in. You told me it's 3 months. You told me it was for the good of everybody. And now, you know, and now suddenly you're telling me I'm like, you know, I got to keep staying in, I got to keep staying down, I can't open my business, can't go out. Every time you keep moving the goalpost, moving it farther, and then they look and go, even if they're on the left, they go, you let everybody go out and protest, you know, but you wouldn't let people go to the beach, and now I can't go back to my job, and I can only serve, like, my bar can't be open unless it serves food, like the alcohol gets you COVID or something, and it's all twisted and turned, and they're kind of like, they don't know what they're doing. They're like, you're just like, you know, and again, they also see other places. It's like, once you get out, it's like, you know, I've said before, I lived I was visiting Germany back in the day when the wall was still up, and I went to East Berlin, you know, separated by 100 yards, East and West Berlin. West Berlin, this beautiful, colorful metropolis. East Berlin, this gray, shady, dark, depressing place. And you wondered why the people inside weren't like, man, I want what's on the other side. Well, they hadn't seen it. Just the minute they opened the wall up and could see it, people were like, let me out, do that here. And I really believe if everybody in California got on a plane and came to a place like Florida, they'd be like, holy cow. And I talk to people when they do it, they're like, oh my God, it's so different. Wow. And you guys aren't all dropping like flies, and you're not all at each other's throats, and you got people on the left and people on the right, and it's sort of working, and you're managing, and you're wearing masks, and you're interacting, and you're doing your best, and you social distance, and hey, things go on. And yes, people still get COVID, but not at a crazy alarming rate. So people are like, we're living, and we're able to therefore have a future. Because I want to end this on the fact that this is such a hard Thanksgiving. That's such a hard year. Okay, let me interrupt myself. You know what? I don't totally disagree, Monkey Arms, with that. I get it. It'd be nice to have an organized response, but I'll tell you this. I don't know that it would really make that much of a difference. And the way we are set up is designed to let states and governors in the states, governors in states have incredible power, and we are designed to let the states make their own decisions. What one state wants to do, another doesn't have to do. That's why we can do it. So the notion of a cohesive national strategy kind of runs against the very notion of how the country was built, which was to let each state be its own independent sovereign entity, united, and to do what it wants. So you can live in a state that's more like you, and someone else can live in a state that's less like you. And within certain limits, you can't do certain things that violate the Constitution in any state. So a cohesive national strategy would only go so far because you can only impose so much. And I don't think you really want to change that. You don't really want a centralized, I think you'll find you'd be disappointed in the result of a centralized government, U.S. government that has the authority to dictate everything to everyone. And I don't see it happening. You know, it's not gonna. I am really pissed, Bruce, that we got kicked off of Reddit. You know? It's bugging me. Wasn't right. Not right at all. I was listening from my car. Engagement all around is super low today on all platforms. Okay, so it's not just me. I like that, you know? Maybe it's because they're censoring me. Yeah, Monkey Arms, I'm being censored. Thank you. So listen, engagement is off, but I'm also being censored, which I don't like. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. Crafty, are you still there? Did I lose you? Have you gone into the void, into the censorship void?
No, I was here. I was saying that, one, that's going to be expected during Thanksgiving week. And then two, there's not going to be a massive or radical change because whoever's going to follow is going to also be based on the media. So unless there's a change in the media, it's going to be pretty much the same rhetoric, the same patterns are just going to repeat themselves over and over.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think things will change, but, you know, obviously who we follow. It's all the reason why we need to have more freedom and less censorship. So, you know, and again, we're kind of, you know, we're nearing like 35 minutes. I'm going to try to wrap this up because I'm packaging these all now down to 22-minute shows that we're going to start putting on some OTT platforms. So I'm trying to keep them a little more contained. I do wish we, you know, I do wish we had more people, engaged with us every time, not just today. And it bugs the heck out of me if we have been censored. But, you know, right? I made it. Thanks. Welcome to the Censored Club. I made it. That's what I like to hear. But Bruce, I lost my train of thought in this whole censorship thing. It's really bugging me that we got censored on Reddit, Bruce. It's crafty. It's bugging me. It got in my head. I'm like, what did we do? What? That's not right. I want to find out. Reddit, why are you censoring us? I want answers. What did I say? And I'll keep saying it. But, you know, don't like that we've been checked down for whatever reason. All right. Final thoughts. Thanksgiving, holiday to be grateful for. Yes. Again, don't get stuck in the national identity of where Thanksgiving came from. It's a day to give thanks for a lot of things. And no matter where we are right now, we all got something to be thankful for. I have lots to be thankful for, and I struggle. I've talked about this stuff before. I deal with, demons in my head. I got a lot of depression, it's kind of runs in my family. And I tell myself every day, be grateful, be grateful. There is always something to be grateful for. And I have tons to be grateful for. But when I get down, I remind myself of that. But Thanksgiving is sort of a super day to just remember. And it's why being with the people you love and being around them can be important. It's a day of coming together. But for me, the biggest lesson of all this is not whether or not you can technically celebrate Thanksgiving or not. It is, for me, the government in any state is going too far when it is literally trying to control the actual behavior of you inside your house on a national holiday. And it's exceptionally hypocritical when they do that while not following it themselves. I promise you, Gavin Newsom is not, did you think that's the only time he violated the rules? The one time he happened to get caught because a server took photos? He's not going to go out to some restaurant. But the thing about it that I want to leave you with is that the thing about what's tricky is the people asking you to make these sacrifices rarely make them themselves. They exempt themselves. They always have. Every country, every culture, they always have. When I lived in China after college, it always fascinated me that people in this country that was all about socialist equality and, of the people, for the people, to eat. Well, that's not it. That's our Constitution. From each what you can, to the good of the whole, you give whatever you can. I'm messing the whole phrase up, but the idea is, you give whatever you can to the good of the whole. You don't take it back individually. And that collective notion always sort of fell apart with the leadership never doing it. And people knew the Chinese leadership didn't live the way they did. And people were okay with that. I'm like, why are you okay with the people telling you to live this way, living lavish lifestyles? It's the same thing. Our leaders tell us to do one thing in every single example over and over and over again. I've shown so many of them. At a certain point, they're not just anecdotal. They're just the ones we've managed to, line up and catch. Over and over again, people do it. The leaders tell you one thing, do another, and then get caught and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. The fact that they're doing it, that they're not doing what they tell you to do should trouble you. But trust me, Gavin Newsom is not following all his rules, or Nancy Pelosi. They're not. Eric Garcia, they're not. Chris Cuomo, he's not. And that they're not doing it should bother you, because it's not either they're not doing it because it's not necessary for everyone to do it, or it is necessary for everyone to do it, and they've just decided they can be the exception to the rule. Well, then I want to be the exception to the rule too. It's one of the two. Either we don't really need to do it, or we do, but I'm not going to follow that. But again, these are people, Gavin Newsom gets to go do what he wants pretty much every day of the week. He's not sitting home. He's not locked down. He's got money too, tons of money. So, while he's asking Angelinos, who are scraping by right now, out of work, haven't had their kids home, from school. The kids aren't getting an education. The whole thing is a train wreck mess. Don't have your extended family over for Thanksgiving because you're going to start the massive COVID spread. But by the way, if tomorrow there was a shooting and a Black Lives Matter event and thousands of Latinos or Los Angelinos rushed out onto the streets on Friday in a protest, you wouldn't hear Gavin Newsom saying, go home. He'd say, I get it. You got us. This is one more example of injustice. Trust me, that's what would happen. It's that hypocrisy that makes it tough for me. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing, everybody who did. Sorry, Reddit, if we lost you. We have you back. We're going to figure out why we got blocked. We're not going to get blocked again because I love our Wednesday Reddit streams into the channel. Thanks, Crafty, for a good show.
Yeah,
everybody, seriously, have a really good Thanksgiving, however you celebrate. And if, by the way, you are staying home and following rules wherever you are, okay. I'm not criticizing you for doing it. I'm just saying be mindful of the fact of who's asking you to do it, whether you should be being told to do that or whether you should have the voluntary. And somebody said it's not enforceable. They are making it enforceable. That's why police officers and police chiefs are saying we won't enforce it, because they're saying there are fines for things and they can in many places enforce it. And the cops are like, we won't. Be safe, be grateful, and be aware of how rare a thing real freedom is and how precious a commodity it is, and be careful about giving it away. It's Rob Nelson Live.